Howdy, folks. Lori Lowe here, and welcome to my Sacred Binge. This is my second week of recording videos about one of my most interesting topics, at least for me, which is binge eating disorder. I've had a binge eating disorder since I was essentially in elementary school. Um, and One of the things that has really kind of shaken loose for me in terms of the recent work that I did around binging, as I said, I dieted for on and off for 50 years and decided that I'm going to find out why I've had to diet on and off, and I've gained and lost and gained and lost so over so many years, but also what really is binge eating disorder, and what is the relationship of binging with being a human being? I mean, I just all these years I just threw diets at the problem. If I was upset, I would overeat, but I would instantly have a connection to wanting to restrict. So one of the things I'm really getting a hold of is that binging and restricting, or overeating and trying to lose weight all the time, are two sides of the very same disorder. It's almost like without dieting, you can't have binging. What I've done in my life right now is I've decided I'm not going to diet anymore. I'm just not going to restrict anymore. And it's really interesting when I have moments where I have gone ahead and I've had a binge and I've observed myself overeating, and I've observed myself very clearly eating to comfort and distract and to numb. And because I've just got discomfort or uncomfortable feelings going on, almost instantly my brain goes to, okay, time to restrict. Tomorrow I will diet. Tomorrow I will eat less. Tomorrow I'll go for a walk, or whatever it is. But it's that cycle of binging and dieting is just part of this loop that keeps going. And if you think about it, dieting is actually an addiction to thinness. We believe thinness is going to deliver these marvelous qualities to us. We're going to be beautiful and thin and loved and worthy. When I would lose weight, and I've lost 50, 60 pounds at a time, when I would do that, I would sort of pretend like I never was a binge eater and I never was overweight. And you can see what a recipe for a disaster that is, because then I was never dealing with the reasons that I binged or what binging did for me. By not dieting, I suddenly don't feel like I'm overweight. And you know what? I'm overweight. I weigh more than, probably some people would think I should, whatever. The point is who's to say that that's bad? It's our thin society, and it is our diet industry and our social media driven, perfection focused society that somehow makes me feel bad about myself. Again, that's a whole nother episode, and we're really going to get into it at some point. But right now I have something. I told you I journal a lot. Here's my latest one, has little flamingos on it here. And I want to read something from my journal. And this is actually from several weeks ago, but I believe I've looked at and accepted the reasons for the trauma of my childhood and why I chose binging on sweets as a way to manage my fear and belief that I was flawed and unworthy. What I haven't looked at is why I'm still using sugar to do these things. That's because I felt that I was flawed and unworthy unless I was thin. Part of me still believes that. I was a binge eater and a serial dieter who was white knuckling any diet I was ever on. Even though I knew the trauma was real, I also believed that I was flawed and unworthy. So my mind and my intellectual brain realized that I had just been subjected to some untrue beliefs, been allowed to think something about myself that was not true, but my brain was still reacting as if it was true, that I was flawed and unworthy. By putting the shame away, I can see that it's possible to change my thinking about what sugar and binging and the addiction to thinness have really done to my life. That's what my Sacred Binge is all about. living with the binge, looking at the phenomenon of binging, looking at how our brain works, looking at the diet industry and how it convinces us that all we need to do is be thin, looking at social media and how it convinces us that to be an important, valuable person, we've got to be super thin, super beautiful, rich, all of those things. And all of our problems will go away. And it's amazing how our brain allows us to feel. I didn't say that quite right. It's amazing how our brain allows us to believe that lie, because it's just been so ingrained in us, and how the trauma of our childhood perhaps allows us to convince ourselves that that lie is true, and it's just not. So that's today's lesson, or today's podcast, I guess. Still working on what this program is going to be. I'm getting a website kind of going this week, so I'm super excited about that. But in the meantime, this is a program under development, as I've said. Please give me your comments, give me your feedback. I'm hungry, pun intended, to understand how this works and how it helps other people, because that's my goal. My committed goal in life is I'm going to debunk the myths of binge eating and perfectionism and this terrible cycle, painful torture that we get on by being addicted to both overeating and dieting. Okay, so until then, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.